Good afternoon. I'm Jim McKay speaking to you live at this moment from ABC headquarters just outside the Olympic Village in Munich, West Germany.
Early this morning, a group of Arab terrorists burst into the Israeli compound at the Olympic Village in Munich. They shot and killed the wrestling coach of the Israeli team. They took nearly a dozen other Israelis hostage.
This scene in the Olympic Village today became the symbol of man's inhumanity to man as an organization called the Black September Movement, a Palestine guerrilla organization, scaled the fences of the Olympic compound and with machine guns blazing entered the Israeli housing compound, killed 2 men, and are still holding hostages.
Our worst fears have been realized tonight. They have now said that there were 11 hostages. 2 were killed in their rooms yesterday morning. 9 were killed at the airport tonight. They're all gone.
It was in the Carpathian Mountains that I met Kehat Shor, a man who had led many raids into Romanian cities to rescue Jews during World War II. Though he received a commendation after the war, he refused a posting in the Romanian army, saying that he had fought not for his country, but for us, the Jewish people. I am devastated at the loss of such an example of Gevurah, courage. Kehat adapted his talents from wartime to peace, teaching all of us to use sports as a way of reaching across national boundaries. My friend's legacy will live forever.
Mark Slavin was only 18. He was a youth, Seirot, striving for greatness, improving to himself and Israel, the country he loved, that he was a champion. Mark was only a few years older than me, but he was someone I always looked up to. He had been beaten by anti-Semites in his native Minsk, and his family had encouraged him to fight back. That was Mark. He fought for what was right. The fact that Mark was murdered a day before he had the opportunity to prove to the world, his friends, his family, and himself that he could be an Olympic champion will forever haunt my thoughts.
Moshe Weinberg, my beloved wrestling coach, is dead. Of all my coaches, he gave me the greatest chokhmah, wisdom, how I looked up to him. He was never one to give up easily. Although already shot and bleeding, Moshe used his own wisdom in a heroic act to save the life of a fellow hostage. I can't believe he's gone from the world forever, but his life is not one that will ever be forgotten. I will always remember him as the giver, on the edge of death, yet still giving.
I can't believe this has happened. I've trained with Eliezer Halfin since the time he lived in Russia. Eliezer went through an intense journey to make it to Israel. He and his family waited for 6 years to be granted visas. Even though Eliezer was barred from further competition as a wrestler while his family awaited visas, he still exemplified the highest commitment, Bezirat Nefesh, to the sport. He always came to training sessions early and stayed late, pushing himself to the limit. Eliezer had just placed 12th as a wrestler in the World Championships the previous year. He was so excited to compete in the Munich Games.
My best friend is gone. My friend, who had finished 12th place at these Olympic Games. Ze'ev Friedman, who had broken 3 Israeli records, and now murdered, simply because of the country he represented. This tragedy can't be true. Ze'ev had been the Israeli featherweight champion for 7 years. What an achiever, truly embodying Hasikiyut. But he will never be given the opportunity to achieve in the Olympic Games again, because he is gone, brutally murdered by terrorists, and I never got to say goodbye.
When I learned of Yosef's last moments alive, I was immediately flooded with memories of his chozek, strength. He held off the terrorists as they barged through the team's dormitory, allowing other Israelis to escape, an action as selfless and altruistic as Yosef Romano himself. It was easy to see Yosef for what he truly was, an athlete. This was a side of him that I knew so well, a wrestling champion for over a decade. His wife and 3 young daughters will never forget him. Neither will I.
It's been nearly 35 years since the 1972 Olympics were rocked by tragedy, when an Arab terrorist group called Black September stormed the Olympic compound and took 11 members of the Israeli Olympic team hostage. The world watched as the daunting image of the masked man on the terrace of Olympic Village Building number 31 became the face of terrorism.
My heart almost stopped when I heard what had happened. I never got to say goodbye to my friend, David Berger. David deserved every bit of recognition he received, as he exemplified bitachon atzmi, self-reliance. But despite his many academic and athletic successes, he also saw how sports have the power to break down social barriers. David believed that athletics are about more than competition and winning. In his memory, I constantly strive to show my opponent camaraderie. And now, before every wrestling match in which I compete, I sit quietly in the locker room and pray for my friend, David.
It was Goodall, fate, that my friend and fencing coach Andre Spitzer returned to the Munich Games on September 4th, 1972. Although the fencing competition had already ended and Andre had returned home to Holland to visit his family, he wanted to revisit the games to support the Israeli team. He had a drive to support his teammates because in his heart he believed in sports as a catalyst for harmony between nations.
Yosef Gutfreund was Israel's only Class A wrestling referee. Throughout his life and career, he showed constant tzedek, justice. Yosef will be missed not only as an international referee, but also as a good friend, the literal translation of his last name. He was certainly a good friend to me, and his kindness touched everyone whose paths he crossed. Even after being imprisoned for distributing Zionist propaganda, Yosef's dedication to the state of Israel never wavered. He served in both the Sinai War and the Six-Day War, and showed Jewish chesed to abandoned Egyptian soldiers in Gaza.
Yaakov Springer was a weightlifting judge, a coach, a leading wrestler, and one of the finest exemplars of tichot, resilience, I have ever known. When he was just 18, Yaakov fled Poland to Russia to escape the Nazis. His entire family was murdered. After the war, he bravely returned to Poland to study at the Academy of Sports. He was the only Jew to return. As a judge at the Munich Games, Yaakov could have stayed outside the Olympic Village, but chose instead to share space with his friends. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children, in addition to a legacy that will endure forever.
Mitzur Shapira was the Israeli athletics coach. Everyone saw him as a warm and caring man, one filled with Lev Rahav, selflessness. We had all celebrated the high point in his career just a day before the terrorist attacks, when Esther Roth, whom Amitzur had coached, set the Israeli record in the 100-meter hurdles. Amitzur himself was even a record holder in long jumping and short distance running. I loved seeing him do all that he could. He was also a husband and the father of 4 children, tragically left behind with his death. Amitzur Shapira was loved by so many, and I was truly blessed to know him.
The Olympic Games, in fact, the world seemed to be held hostage, as negotiations led to an agreement to allow the captors and their hostages to travel to a nearby airport to waiting helicopters. But a poorly planned and executed rescue attempt ended in tragedy.
The latest word we get from the airport is that, quote, all hell is broken loose out there.
And led to one of the most memorable moments in world history. A moment made even more shocking for the families by the mistaken reports that the team had been freed and were safe.
We've just gotten the final word. Our worst fears have been realized tonight. They're all gone.
My name is Adina Friedman, and I am playing for Kehat Shore. Will those of you wearing a white bracelet stand with me and dedicate your performance this week to his memory?
My name is Sarah Guiccioni, and I am playing in honor of Mark Slavin. If you're wearing a black bracelet, please stand and join me in dedicating your performance this week at Maccabi in his honor.
My name is Alexis Shuby. I'll be playing this week in honor of Moshe Weinberg. If you're also wearing a purple bracelet, would you please rise and join me in dedicating your performance this week in his memory?
My name is Barrett Dover, and I am playing in honor of Eliezer Halfin. If you are also wearing a green wristband, please rise with me and dedicate your performance this week to his memory.
My name is Ayla Shalev, and this week I'll be dedicating my performance to Ze'ev Friedman. If you are also wearing an orange bracelet, please rise and join me in dedicating your performance this week to his memory.
My name is Eitan Bosorn, and I am representing Yosef Romano. If you are also wearing a blue bracelet, stand with me to help commemorate Yosef this week.
My name is Jeremy Statman, and I am honoring David Berger as I play this week. If you are also wearing a red bracelet, won't you rise and join me in honoring David Berger as you play this week?
My name is Leah Friedlander, and this week I will be dedicating my performance to Andre Spitzer. If you have a green bracelet, please stand and join me in dedicating your performance to him this week.
My name is Alana Harold, and I'm playing in honor of Josef Gutfreund. If you're also wearing a yellow bracelet, please rise and join me in dedicating your performance this week to his memory.
My name is Jeremy Mosier, and I'm playing in honor of Yaakov Springer. If you're also wearing a gray bracelet, please stand up and join me in dedicating your performance this week to his memory.
My name is Ryan Newberg, and I'm playing in honor of Amitzir Shapiro. If you're also wearing a purple bracelet, then please rise and join me in dedicating your performance this week to his memory.